Hi, everyone. It's simply Mrs. Moody here again. I'm living intentionally and on purpose, and I wanted to share something with you all. Let me turn this down. It's pretty bright. So today I got my special hands outreach shirt on. It's Friday, the day after Christmas. Hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. And a few of my staff members, one of my admin team is working, and she had been dealing with a client who I guess was kind of challenging her and kind of being a bit rude to her via email. So that triggered me, and I called the client with already, some heat in my chest, and I really gave the client some energy that really was not, I wasn't being unprofessional, but I definitely was not being kind, and I wanted to share that because, we have to die to the flesh often, and many times we want to hide those things and be prideful about making mistakes and not fixing them or being able to apologize and, really understanding that people can have human moments, right? And if any of you have watched my videos, I'm really big on validating us ourselves in the human moment space, right? And so I I I think that after reflecting, I'm feeling conviction in my heart, and I'm just like, dang, I wish I had handled that. But I think I was just really upset and really not liking the fact that the client was, really speaking to my admin in a such way, and the admin was trying to be nice and polite and helpful and supportive. But, this is part of mental health where people are dealing with their own issues and we have to give them grace. But at the same time, I feel like, okay, hold accountability. So after we had the phone conversation and the young lady said what she said, that I was, being smart with her, she actually hung up on me. And oh boy, that pride of the flesh, I mean, I was riveted, right? And I was like, okay, no, this is not who you are. This is not what you do. And I just want to make a point that just because someone does it to you doesn't mean that you have to follow suit. I don't know what this thing is about matching energy. I don't match people's energy. I was just disliking and upset, probably a little frustrated about how my admin were treated, because I know that my admin, they they don't use the same energy. They try to come with compassion and care. They try to solve the client's problems, and sometimes clients are difficult, right? And it ended up being that there was an error on our part in our system, and so I ended up having to apologize, to that client and letting her know the truth that I was frustrated and I apologized. I had a human moment, and obviously it would never happen again. But I wanted to live intentionally and speak to it because there were two things that happened that I think happens a lot with us. One, we want to hide this thing. It's something about that pride thing where we don't want to admit fault or take ownership. That is like the beginning stages of narcissistic behavior, when you are refusing to take a mirror and reflect. And it's the biggest thing to live in humility and walk around with a humble heart to say, I'm in the human condition. I make mistakes too, and that I'm asking for empathy and grace as I give empathy and grace to others. There's a story in the Bible about a man who owed the king money, um, and he begged for grace, and the king gave it to him. But then that same man went and had a slave that owed him money, and the slave didn't have it, and he didn't give the slave that grace, and he was nasty and mean and whatever. And so the king said, oh no, you treated, I gave you grace, you couldn't give him grace. And we don't know how to do that, right? Like, we could ask for it, but we don't know how to give it. It is like that double standard, and most people would call that hypocrisy. So I wanted to speak to that it takes true intentionality. It takes true humility. And so a lot of people don't want to humble themselves, maybe because they embarrassed, or maybe even, don't like being wrong, don't want to be made to feel guilty or condemned, that kind of feeling. And so in order to not do that, you either lie, you mull over it, or you don't give it the credence that it should be given to validate the person that you wronged or didn't give grace to, right? And so that happened today in the sense that I did tell this woman, I came to her with an energy, I was frustrated, and she perceived it as me getting smart. I didn't get smart with her. I think that I was stern, and she didn't like it, but I did have an energy. So I apologized and let her know that I would do better, especially as a business owner, knowing that I'm in the mental health industry and I'm dealing with people that have life going on and they need our help. That is not good. But I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to live on purpose. I'm going to own my convictions, and I'm going to tell myself I'm going to do better, right? I'm in the human condition too. And just because I know better, I do every day try to do better, but sometimes we make mistakes. And I think, I was talking to a couple today in my last session, and I was talking about how, I think it was a couple, and the wife was concerned about how her children would see them in conflict. And I said, well, you don't want your children growing up seeing perfection or thinking perfection where everything looks good. We don't do this around the kids, and I do agree with that. But sometimes if the kids do see discord or an argument or disagreement or whatever, show them what making up looks like. Show them what apologies looks like. Show them what sincerity and compassion looks like, and forgiveness looks like, right? Because that's what real life is. I mean, as our kids grow up, they're going to go to elementary, middle, and high school, and they're going to be in relationships where these communications styles and ways of dealing with emotions are important. We are not going to be perfect forever. We aren't. And so I encouraged her not to say that it's okay for children to see parents at odds, but if they so happen to do that, then also let them see the fix it point where mom and dad are saying, I'm sorry, honey, I apologize. And so I'm living on purpose. I'm the head of this practice that is supposed to be led by the love of God, and I have to model this behavior in real life time. So I wanted to share this because this is real life. This is real life. I had a disgruntled client. I got disgruntled, and I had to humble myself, deal with my feelings of pride and frustration, apologize, humble myself, apologize, and then promise that moving forward, these communications will be better. And that's just how you do it. And so, there's no guilt and shame in this. I accepted it. I held my convictions. I held myself accountable. I forgave myself, and I asked for forgiveness of the other person. It is the genuine thing. It is the compassionate thing. It is the grace thing. And that's the other thing, giving ourselves the grace, giving ourselves compassion, forgiving ourselves for those behaviors. You know what I mean? So, again, this is simply Mrs. Moody, and I'm living on purpose. I just wanted to share. Have a good one.